I'm Caroline, a 27-year-old housewife. I've been married for 2 years to my husband Lucas, who's the same age as me. We finally moved into a house we started building right after getting married, and life has settled down a bit. Lucas and I met at work. We were fortunate to work at a great company where overtime was rare, so when we first started dating, we had plenty of time for each other. We moved in together pretty quickly and got married after 3 years. Our plan was to have kids once we settled into our new home, so I left my job to focus solely on homemaking. After I quit, I thought life would get easier, but Lucas started working late more frequently. I asked him what was going on, and he said he was dealing with issues at various clients. I noticed that he had been looking more stressed lately. To help him, I made sure everything was ready for him when he got home, even cooking meals he would enjoy. But his attitude started getting worse. He would sometimes shout, "Why are you making the same meals? If you know I'm coming home tired, you should prepare some snacks to go with my drink." I had never seen this side of Lucas, so I apologized and promised to prepare what he wanted next time. I couldn't help but wonder if work was really causing this change in him. When I thought about the company where I used to work, I never thought they would push people this hard to work. As Lucas started working more and more on holidays, I thought maybe I should check with the company about this. However, when I confirmed the facts about overtime with my friend and former colleague Kaylee, she said, "What? There's hardly any overtime. Everyone leaves on time, just like when you, Caroline, were here." Nothing seemed to have changed with Lucas at work either, which left me increasingly confused. However, soon after that, his late nights began to decrease, and gradually the old Lucas came back. So I decided not to dig too deep into it, thinking it might just be stress accumulation. From then on, there were a few nights when he came back late, but I assumed he was probably out drinking to relieve stress, and I decided not to make a big deal out of it, and waited for him to come home as usual. Half a year after all that drama, my dad got sick. The prognosis wasn't good, so I was thinking about having him stay with us since we lived close to my parents' home. I had lost my mom when I was a student, and it had been just me and Dad ever since. He had funded my college education, and I was extremely grateful. I had always felt supported by him and wanted to spend his final days together. I decided to discuss it with Lucas. We had designed our new home to be accessible, anticipating future caregiving needs for our parents, so I naturally assumed Lucas would welcome my dad. But when I brought it up, Lucas blurted out, "What? Why do we have to take in your dad? We don't even have kids yet. And you want to move him in before that? Unacceptable." His harsh words took me by surprise. "But Dad doesn't have much time left," I tried to explain, my voice shaking. "I don't care. Your family home is close. You can just visit him there." He dismissed me. So what was the point of making our home caregiving friendly? I thought that was for both our parents, I argued. But Lucas said, "No, that's for my parents. You're my wife, so you should be looking after my family. Usually people only start taking care of their parents once their kids are grown. Why did your dad have to get sick so soon? My parents aren't like yours, burdening others." I broke down crying. I'd been holding back tears from the moment we found out about my dad's prognosis, but Lucas's cruel words broke me. "If you're going to cry, I don't care. I'm the one paying the mortgage. I make the decisions. If you can't agree, we're getting a divorce. Pack your stuff and get out," Lucas shouted. So I grabbed the essentials and left, going back to live at my parents' place for a while. My dad was concerned, but I assured him, "Lucas says he's fine on his own, so don't worry." My dad responded, "Well, if Lucas says he's okay, then maybe you should go back to him." I couldn't bring myself to tell my dad that Lucas had refused to help, so I just said, "I'll be staying away for a little while." Then after a few weeks back home, Lucas sent me a text. "There's a notice about community association dues. Apparently someone will be collecting them this Sunday. I don't want to deal with it, so you handle it." It read. Though his tone angered me, I was on good terms with the community association president, so it would have seemed odd to be absent during the collection. I went back. After settling the community dues, Lucas immediately said, "Now that you're done, go back to your parents' house. You're just in the way here." and so he tried to send me away again. But when I returned home after being away for a few weeks, something felt off. Freshly laundered clothes neatly hung up, dishes put away. Above all, the house was cleaner than usual. Could Lucas, who can't even clean properly when I'm away for a few days, really manage to keep things so orderly? I also found it odd that his work shirts were hanging perfectly wrinkle-free. "Lucas, you've never used an iron. How did you get these shirts so nice?" I asked, noticing his eyes darting away for a second.
"Well, someone's got to do it if no one else is around, right?"
Feeling his nervous energy, I decided to push further. "Really, it's like someone's been here," I said. Ignoring my husband's glare, I headed to the bathroom, the best place to find any evidence. I called Lucas over and pointed at a long strand of hair on the bathroom counter. "Whose hair is this?" It wasn't Lucas's, and my own hair is a bright, short cut. The strand was long and black, clearly not ours. Lucas stumbled over his words.
"I have no idea. Must have gotten stuck to my clothes or something."
Seeing his shaky reaction, I felt more certain, but I chose to hold my tongue until I had concrete proof or a confession from Lucas. So I went back to my parents' house. My father's health had somewhat stabilized, so I decided to start working from home. It was a different field from my previous job, and while there were many new things to learn, I found it fulfilling. Given that I also needed to take care of my dad, this flexible job was a lifesaver. In a way, I started to think that my spat with Lucas had a silver lining. He let me spend quality time with my dad and focus on my own career. But just when I thought life was getting stable, another text from Lucas popped up.
"Dad's in the hospital. Need you to come help Mom."
What happened to all his talk about not worrying about his own parents? Certainly, I had no intention of granting his request. "Why should I help? You said your parents wouldn't be a burden, remember?" I replied in a cold, unemotional text. He called me right away, saying,
"Come on, it's a sudden situation. Can't you take care of them for a bit?"
"I'm busy caring for my own father. Weren't you the one who kicked me out? What are you talking about now?" I shot back and hung up. Another call came through.
"Stop this nonsense. You can't keep avoiding home. You'll need me sooner or later. Just come back already."
He sounded even more frantic than before. Sighing, I responded, "I can manage just fine without you. I found a job." And I hung up again. The next day, Lucas showed up at my parents' house.
"My parents are moving in with me, and Mom after Dad gets out of the hospital. Please come help. They said they'd be okay if you were there."
I couldn't believe my ears. So his parents were planning on relying on me all along. And yet Lucas was the one who had told me to leave. "I'm sorry, but I can't take care of them. It's your house, you handle it. Isn't that why you made it accessible?" I tried to dismiss him, but he wouldn't back down. Finally, I'd had enough and showed him the divorce papers I'd prepared. "Now there's no reason for me to care for your parents, is there?"
"What the hell? So you'd rather divorce me than take care of my parents?"
he yelled. I showed him some incriminating photos I'd obtained earlier. "Kathy, my former colleague, sent these to me. She noticed you coming home late and checked up on you." The photos showed him happily bar-hopping with young women. He grabbed them, flustered, but there was no getting out of this. "I'll be claiming alimony in the divorce, just so you know." Just then, a voice from the car in the parking lot. It was his mother, Olive. "Lucas, hurry up and bring Caroline. I need her to help with dinner." Apparently, Olive had moved in already, and had Lucas forcibly fetch me. Hearing Olive's voice, I told Lucas, "Why don't you show this evidence to your mom? Maybe then she'll understand why I'm not coming back." Lucas quickly pocketed the photo he'd snatched from me.
"Stop it. You wouldn't do something like this, would you?"
His eyes welled up with tears. "You made me into someone like this. Plus, I have another photo." I shot back, flashing him the second photo before heading toward the car where Olive was sitting. "Long time no see, Olive. I was just about to be volunteered by Lucas to take care of everyone. Let me make this clear. I'm not up for that role." Olive got annoyed at my tone. "What's with the attitude? You're my son's wife. You can't just refuse to help with family responsibilities." I gave Lucas a pointed look. Lucas, thinking I might expose his affair, started to calm things down.
Mom, Caroline seems busy. Let's go home for now.
Olive wasn't satisfied. Lucas, you were just saying how she's a terrible wife for leaving to stay at her parents' home. What's gotten into you? Why am I the only bad guy here? Hearing that, I sighed. Lucas, sensing danger, tried to get into the driver's seat.
Let's just go home already.
But Olive wouldn't back down. Caroline, you need to come too. If you don't help, who will? That won't be possible. I'm planning on filing for divorce, I said, and started to walk back toward the house. Olive got out of the car to stop me. What do you mean? You're being so selfish. The one who's selfish is your son. I'll be submitting these photos as evidence, and will be seeking compensation. I showed her, freezing Olive in her tracks. Lucas hastily snatched the photo from Olive, but the damage was done. Olive confronted Lucas, but he remained silent, unable to come up with an excuse. If we're clear, please leave, I said, and walked into my house. Later, Lucas did apologize, but I'm not forgiving him, and am in the process of filing for divorce. Turns out Lucas's brother was supposed to be the one taking care of their parents, but due to his own infidelity, he had divorced his wife and seemingly vanished with his affair partner. Like brother, both are cheaters. It's just pathetic. Lucas's parents had apparently turned to Lucas and me for help, taking the place of my brother, but that didn't work out either. In the end, Lucas couldn't take care of his parents and decided to place them in a facility. It wasn't just because it was tough handling it alone. The woman he was having an affair with said, I'm living here now, so your parents can't move in. So his parents demanded a facility that met their preferences. Lucas did find a place that satisfied them, but the cost for admission and ongoing fees were pretty steep. Just as he was determined to work harder, his company found out about the affair, and he had to quit his job. Now he's frantically searching for another job. By the way, it turns out he has a child with the woman he was having an affair with. I had no intention of feeling any sympathy for him, as he struggled with the upcoming child-rearing expenses, the compensation money for me, and the cost for his parents' facility. I had a lawyer report the affair to the woman's company, and it seems she was fired too. I've returned to work, and my colleagues, who knew about the situation, welcomed me warmly. Now, I'm enjoying a peaceful life with my father at my childhood home.
After Mom gets discharged, I'm counting on you to take care of her. What? You're going to be the one taking care of her. It's obvious. We're family. He threatened me with divorce papers when I refused to take care for my mother-in-law. Do you want to be a poor single mom? If you don't, then just do as you're told. I can't take it anymore. I'm so done with this life. Just watch it. I'll make you regret this for sure. My name is Catherine. I'm 43. I live with my husband Bob and our high school-aged daughter Emma. We get by on Bob's salary and the part-time work I do to support our family. We're not rich by any means, but we have a reasonably good life. Then one day, the worst thing happened. Catherine, it looks like Mom has collapsed and has been taken to the hospital. Your mom? My mother-in-law lives alone at home, but she's spry for her age. Apparently, she hurt her back in an accident while she was out shopping and now has to stay in the hospital for a while. Anyway, it's good that her life's not in danger. I'll go check on her at the hospital tomorrow. All right, take care. Aren't you coming? Why would I? Right, okay, I'll go alone. Please send my regards to your mom. Why I don't visit my mother-in-law in the hospital? That's because I've cut ties with her. I've been married to Bob for 20 years. Since the beginning, my mother-in-law has detested me and has gone out of her way to make life difficult. You're really inefficient, aren't you, Catherine? You're not suitable for my son. I wish he had a better wife. I never imagined you'd be this useless. Enduring the continuous verbal abuse from my mother-in-law bore down my spirit. Whatever I did, it was always, "Daughter-in-law is useless. Not good enough. Poor Bob," and so on. I was met with complaints every time we met. But I held on as long as I could because she was Bob's mother, whom I love. However, even after my daughter Emma was born, the mother-in-law harsh words did not stop. On the contrary, she started finding fault with Emma as well. Just great. The long-awaited grandchild is a girl. She can't carry on the family name. She's of no use. If it's a girl, she should just at least be pretty. Who on earth does she take after? Amidst the difficult days, the worst situation that finally decided the end of our relationship occurred. One day, when my mother-in-law was unusually relaxed at our house, my daughter ran up to her with a picture book. "Granny, can you read this?" The moment Emma handed over the book, mother-in-law knocked it down and hurled at Emma. "Don't touch me with your dirty hands. I don't need an unattractive grandchild like you." Emma was startled by her grandmother's loud voice and began to cry. "Granny's scary. I'm scared." She must have been very sad. She was sobbing, and it hurt me to see her like that. Even yelling at my young daughter, I had reached my limit. "Hey, mother-in-law, what do you think you're doing?" I rushed over, but my mother-in-law showed no signs of remorse. Rather, she snapped, "It's your daughter's fault." "You've got to be kidding. I saw what you did. You knocked Emma's book out of her hand, didn't you?" "She tried to touch me with her dirty hands. Is there a problem?" "Dirty hands? How can you say that? If you're going to do this to my daughter, don't come to our house anymore." "Huh? Don't get cheeky with me. I don't care about you all. I just came to see Bob." "This is also the house of me and Emma. Stop making silly excuses." In this way, my mother-in-law got into a big argument. Bob just stood there flustered, saying, "Hey, both of you, please stop," and didn't even warn his mother. Mother-in-law eventually went home grumbling all the while, but this proved to be the final straw. "I can't deal with your mother anymore. I'm fed up with you not defending me and Emma. Let's get divorced." When I said that, Bob started flustered again. "Hey, wait a minute. Even I find my mom tough to deal with. I just couldn't say anything because it was all so sudden today. I'm on your side, Catherine and Emma." People can say anything they want, but unless you act on it, it means nothing anyway, and I can't take it anymore. Then my husband made a proposal. Okay, if you insist, Catherine. I don't mind if you cut ties with my mom, but please, I beg you, don't divorce me." I was torn. Would there be any benefit staying with such an unreliable husband in the future? Even if we cut ties, could I really avoid any interaction with my husband's mother forever? In the end, the reason I didn't go through with the divorce was because of our daughter. Our daughter adores her father, and he's a good and caring dad when he's with her. For our young daughter's sake, taking away her father right now wouldn't be right. So I decided to put the divorce on hold on the condition that I'd sever ties with my mother-in-law. But if anything else happens, I won't be lenient. "I get it. I'll talk to my mom too." And with that, we reached an agreement, and I severed ties with my mother-in-law. I'll never let my daughter meet her grandmother again. That was a condition of our reconciliation. After 10 years, I can't forget what my mother-in-law did. As for visiting her, that's out of the question. Frankly, what happens to my mother-in-law isn't my business. A few days later, my husband came to me with a serious look on his face. "Catherine, I need to talk." "What is it?" My husband looked awkward in response to my question. "It's about my mom. Apparently, she'll need care after she's discharged." "So what?" "It'll cost a lot if she goes to a facility, right? So I was thinking we should take care of her at home." "Oh, that's impressive. Good luck." "No, not me. You." "What? What is he talking about?" "What? You're not seriously. You know that my mother's in a bad way, right, Catherine?" "So what? You know I've cut off all ties with your mother, right?" He fell silent. The fact that he even suggests this was beyond my comprehension. To avoid any unwarranted expectations, I laid it out for him clearly. "Look, I have a job too, you know, and there's no way I can take on the responsibility of caring for your mother." "But you're just working part-time, right? Surely you can find some time to take care of my mother." "If that's what you think, then I'll just talk to my boss about switching to full-time. How about that?" There was no point in dragging out the conversation. My feelings weren't going to change, and his timid demeanor was only annoying me. Although he looked like he wanted to say something, I naturally ignored him. The next day, it seemed he'd spoken to his mother in the hospital as she called me. "Excuse me, Catherine? What on earth are you thinking, refusing to care for your own mother-in-law?" Yes, I refused. Is there a problem? Her bizarre shriek came through the phone when faced with my calm response. "A problem? Don't be ridiculous. How dare you refuse to care for me in my time of need?" "Of course. I've cut you off, remember? You're not even my mother-in-law to me anymore. I have no desire to help you with your care." "What did you just say? How dare you, you impertinent child. Absolutely will not tolerate this refusal." To be honest, I considered just hanging up on her. It was a hassle. But if I didn't firmly reject her now, she'd probably just keep calling. I was prepared to settle this today, so I faced off with my mother-in-law. "Do you remember why I cut you off in the first place, mother-in-law?" "What do you mean? Are you implying I've done something wrong?" "Have you already forgotten? Because of your insidious bullying and your appalling attitude towards my daughter, my husband also agreed to this decision. Goodbye." "Wait, hold on." With no further discussion, I ended the call and promptly blocked her number. A few days later, Bob tried to bring up the topic again. "Hey, about my mom." "Again?" I couldn't hide my irritation as I responded. "Just so we're clear, I have absolutely no sympathy for my mother-in-law, no matter what happens to her. I've told you again and again that I won't provide care, right?" Unexpectedly, her normally compliant husband shot back without hesitation. "No, you're going to take care of my mom. Count on it." "What? What does he mean?" "I've repeatedly stated that I don't want to have anything to do with my estranged mother-in-law." Is he like a chicken, forgetting everything after taking 3 steps? "Count on it" is not the response, right? I said I won't provide care, remember? I fired back defiantly, but my husband is different today. No matter how much I argue, he persistently pushes back. The heated argument I had with my mother-in-law on the phone days ago came to mind. Probably my mother-in-law had given him a piece of her mind afterward. Anyway, you're going to take care of my mom. It's obvious, isn't it? What? Former family, right? Remember, it was your idea to cut ties with your mother. That was then. My mom is now weak, and it's a different situation. She's not as energetic as she was after hospitalization, yet you're still talking like a child. Childish? Me? The reason we're in this situation is because of that damn mother-in-law's childish harassment. And according to the conversation on the phone, your mother-in-law seemed pretty lively, didn't she? And even my husband repeatedly demands I take care of his mother. I'm not going to back down. No matter what you say, I can't do what I can't do. And if it's that important to you, you can do it yourself. At that, her husband silently handed her a sheet of paper. What's this? Can't you tell? It's a divorce paper. To her shock, her husband had presented her with a completed divorce form. If you don't want to get divorced, take care of my mom. My silent disbelief only prompted my husband to pressure me more. You'd be in trouble if we divorced now, right? Emma will be a college student next year. You, just a part-timer, can't possibly survive if you divorce me now, right? If you don't like it, just do as you're told. The man who didn't consider my feelings using our daughter as leverage to threaten me? I just can't continue being married to someone like this. It's impossible. The moment I was convinced of this, I felt my feelings for my husband quickly disappear. I'm going to end this. That's what I thought. Hey, are you even listening? You were all fired up just a moment ago. Now that divorce is a reality, are you scared? My husband looks down at me laughing. My daughter came into the room, probably hearing us arguing. Hey, I heard raised voices. What's going on? Then my husband started a tirade on Emma, too. Oh, you're just in time. You will be helping with your grandmother's care, too. What? Why me? It's obvious, isn't it? She's your beloved grandma. You could at least help with the caregiving. I can't believe that they would impose my mother-in-law's care on my daughter without a second thought. I was so pissed off that I signed the divorce papers as fast as I could. What are you doing, Catherine? Isn't it obvious? I'm signing the divorce papers. I'll go submit them once I'm done. Perhaps he hadn't expected me to agree to the divorce so easily. Bob started to panic. Hey, enough already. Did you even listen to me? You're going to be the one who's going to have a hard time if we get divorced. I don't care. Compared to staying involved with you, any hardship seems bearable. With divorce papers in hand, I began to prepare to leave. Then, perhaps numb to the situation, my husband takes the final step. Are you sure about this? If we divorce, you'll have to give up Emma. I'm warning you, I'll get custody. You'll never see our daughter again. A husband who has no doubt in his mind that he's superior to his wife. Truly, how stupid can he be? Even if we get divorced, I will not give up my daughter. I will do whatever it takes to provide for my daughter at all cost. I will get custody of Emma. Shut up. Considering our financial situations, it's natural that I get her. You won't see our daughter again. Tough luck. At that moment, Emma, who had been quietly listening, chimed in. What are you talking about? I'm going with Mom. Huh? At Emma's words, Bob stood there dumbstruck. What are you saying? If you follow your mother, Catherine. You'll only face hardship. I don't care. It's better than being with you, Dad. I would never want to take care of Grandma. That's right. My daughter had not forgotten what my mother-in-law had done to her in the past. I really hate Grandma for bullying Mom. I'm also disgusted with you, Dad, for not helping my mom. I don't care about the money. I'm going to live with Mom. At my daughter's words, a surge of indescribable emotion wells up within me. I had hoped she would choose to come with me, but I never imagined that she thought it through so much. My husband, looking quite pathetic, started trying to persuade us to stay. Wait, just a second, wait. If you two are gone, who's gonna take care of the house? Why don't you do it yourself, Dad? My daughter responded with a smirk. You can take care of Grandma, do all the housework, all by yourself. That's impossible. I have a job, you know. So what? Mom has been working, doing house chores, and you want her to take care of Grandma on top of that? Expecting others to do what you won't do yourself? That's ridiculous. So out of touch. My daughter gave my husband a thorough tongue lashing, leaving him completely stunned. Eventually, he resorted to his usual tactic of crying to win us over. Oh, why are you guys blaming me so much? I just asked for a little help with the caregiving. There was a time when we might have let it slide, but neither my daughter nor I have that kind of patience anymore. Looking at my crying husband, all we could do was shake our heads in disbelief. Let's go, Mom. Let's hurry up and pack our things. Right. My daughter and I each packed our belongings, took the divorce papers, and left the house. My husband kept crying, trying to stop us until the last moment, but of course, we ignored him completely. We submitted the divorce papers at the city hall, and our divorce was finalized. My daughter and I decided to live at my parents' house for a while. By the way, my family runs a flower shop. Right now, I am working part-time and helping out with the family's flower shop, trying to save money for my daughter's college tuition. My husband continued to contact me persistently, even after that. Mom is throwing stuff at me. Help me. I can't handle it anymore on my own. Please come back. Since he was so annoying, I blocked his contact. Living with my ill-tempered mother-in-law every day must be quite a struggle, and it seems that my husband is having to care for her day and night without any sleep. Finally, my company has moved to shorter working hours and my paycheck seems to be barely scraping by. If I had known it would come to this, I should have done whatever it took to put my mother-in-law into a facility. Well, it's too late to talk about what I should have done now. Besides, thanks to my husband making a fuss about caregiving, I'm able to spend these days with my daughter. I guess I should thank him for that bit. From now on, I want to live each day in cooperation with my cherished family.
Is she running late again? As the start time loomed, I mused while gazing at the empty chair. My coworkers also looked frustrated. Eventually, the owner of that seat showed up about an hour after we had opened for business. My name is Casey. I'm a 48-year-old office worker. I live with my husband Scott and our 2 kids. My kids are in high school and middle school, so they're pretty independent now, allowing me to focus on my job. Scott recently started a business with some friends, and while it seems tough, he's happier than before. I've been working in accounting for quite some time at this small to mid-sized company and get along well with the part-time staff. However, I'm having issues with a newer employee named Francis. She's 24, half my age. The daughter of our managing director, she's clearly a product of nepotism. I didn't mind that initially. It's a small company, and these things happen. So when I heard that the managing director's daughter was joining the company, I just thought, oh, that's it. But Frances is a real piece of work. She was assigned to accounting after one of our part-timers left due to personal reasons. I was mostly handling things on my own, and I had heard Frances had some qualifications. So I thought maybe she would lighten my load. Turns out, I was wrong. I'm better off working alone. From our very first meeting, things felt off. When I greeted her, she said, "Sure, nice to meet you, Aunt." I was flabbergasted. Not only was her attention divided, but she also had the audacity to call me Aunt upon our first meeting. The managing director just watched it unfold with a smile, not seeming to mind. If my kids behaved like that, I'd tell them, "Don't be rude." Are things just different nowadays? I've never really liked our managing director personally. We only converse when necessary. I never knew he was so indulgent with his daughter. He probably thinks she can do no wrong. Confronting Frances would only upset him, so I held my tongue. Though I sighed inwardly, I have a duty to train her, so I went on to explain her the tasks. But Frances wouldn't listen. "I can't remember all these things at once," she said, giving up, even on listening. I restrained my irritation and asked her about her so-called qualifications. "I thought you had some kind of certification. What is it?" I thought maybe I could assign her work based on that, but her answer was, "I'm an accounting clerk." Apparently, she went to a vocational high school and got the certification almost involuntarily. She tried and failed multiple times to become an accounting technician, she told me. Is it really okay to have someone like that in accounting? I had my reservations, but I did my best to train her while focusing on my own work. A month after Frances joined, her attitude hadn't changed, and she still couldn't do her job properly. To be precise, I had taught her the same things repeatedly, but it seemed like she had no intention of remembering, as she didn't even take notes. Other staff members were also complaining that Frances wouldn't do the work they asked of her. What made it even more frustrating was that she was earning the same salary as me, despite my many years of service. Another month passed, and Frances had shown little to no improvement. One day, she didn't show up at the start time. I called her mobile, but it went unanswered. The managing director was out meeting clients and hadn't arrived at the office yet, so everyone was worried. An hour later, Frances finally showed up, acting as if nothing had happened. "What happened? Is everything okay?" I asked.
"Oh, looks like I overslept."
What kind of professional does that? I told her, if you're going to be late, you should at least inform the office. Frances gave a nonchalant,
"Okay,"
in response. Everyone around us sighed in unison. From then on, Frances started being late more frequently. Though she supposedly lived with her family, she spent many nights out, something even the managing director was unaware of. There were times when she would be late even when the managing director was in, but all he would say was, "Oh, you're late today," leaving everyone else dumbfounded. The stress from dealing with Frances kept piling up in various ways, and then the incident happened. Is she late again? Even the managing director didn't know. She had spent another night out. Apparently, she stayed at her lover's place. The start time came and went. and she was nowhere to be found. I called her mobile again, but as expected, no answer. At this point, should we just ignore her? My colleague Dina said, clearly frustrated. Finally, Frances arrived, more than an hour late. She sat down at her desk without a greeting and started putting on makeup as if nothing had happened. Everyone was stunned, but she didn't seem to care. I finally had to say something. Frances, this really isn't okay. She looked at me puzzled. They don't seem to know what's wrong. You come in late, no greeting, and you start doing your makeup? Just then, I saw the managing director returning to his desk. But I continued. I've told you before to call if you're going to be late, remember? It felt ridiculous having to say this to a 24-year-old adult. It was like scolding a child. Frances just sulked, acting, indeed, like a child. The last thing I said was, "Isn't it common courtesy to apologize when you're late?" The managing director stormed over to me, his face twisted in anger. He yelled at me. "You insolent brat! Who do you think you are? You're fired!" I almost blurted out, "What?" but held my tongue. Nervous glances spread through the room. Of course, the president is conveniently absent. Well, the president's not really reliable to begin with. Frustrated with the managing director's tirade, my colleague Dina spoke up. "Wait a minute. Casey hasn't said anything wrong here." Dina works in sales and hates injustices. She has a strong sense of right and wrong. We've been good friends for a long time, and we help each other out at work. Everyone else in the room nodded at Dina's words, but not the managing director. He yelled at Dina. "You're talking back to me? You're fired too!" I couldn't take it anymore and glared at the managing director. "Are you serious about this?" Dina was glaring at him too. He declared both of us fired and told us to leave immediately. At that moment, the president returned, but did nothing but look puzzled. Apparently, the president and the managing director are relatives, and for some reason, the president can't oppose him. Fed up, Dina and I packed up and left. We stopped by a cafe on the way to catch our breath. What's his problem? I was getting tired of the job, but I didn't think I'd have to quit like this, Dina said, still fuming. Indeed, we had started to think about quitting the company ever since Frances arrived. I feel bad that you got fired because of me. That was my biggest concern. Had I not spoken out, Dina wouldn't have been fired. Dina reassured me. It's okay. I was tired of working full-time anyway. Maybe this is a chance to find a part-time job. What about you, Casey? I've actually been offered a part-time accounting position at Scott's company. Dina thought that sounded like a better option. Both the managing director and Frances really ticked me off. Dina was still angry, and I agreed with her. I wonder if the company will be all right without us. Not that it's any of our business. I said that, and Dina finally smiled. Exactly. Even if they beg us to come back, I won't. I feel like suing them for wrongful termination. We decided to take some time to cool off and discuss what to do next. When I got home and told Scott about what happened, he was even angrier than I was. What? What's up with that managing director? I was furious too, and unsure about whether I'd made the right decision. But Scott's reaction confirmed that I wasn't in the wrong. Scott's words were comforting, and I finally felt at ease. I then started working in accounting at Scott's company. The part-time accountants who were already there told me they felt more at ease now, as their workload had lightened. Dina, too, started working for Scott's company, though not full-time like before, but part-time. Since we were fired on the spot and had to pack up immediately, we hadn't been able to do the paperwork for leaving the company. Someone, probably my successor Francis, would take care of it. We started working energetically in our new environment. After some time had passed, I received a call from the managing director of my previous company.
"We don't understand the accounting you were handling. Come to the office immediately."
What's he talking about? Could it be they're failing at the monthly payments to clients and sales calculations that I used to handle? Besides, we haven't even received our exit paperwork yet, but we were fired just for being late. Who do they think they're talking to? Needless to say, I declined. No can do. But the managing director was relentless.
"Come right now and we'll rehire you. You haven't found another job yet, have you?"
I sighed. No thanks. I've already switched jobs. I've taught Frances everything about accounting. Not sure if she gets it though. I hung up after saying that. Apparently, Dina also got contacted. There were several clients who said they'd stop doing business if Dina wasn't handling their accounts. The managing director arrogantly offered her re-employment as well. He had underestimated Dina, thinking she was just a female salesperson and wasn't capable of handling work. It turned out she was a valuable employee. This fueled our anger towards the managing director once again. Meanwhile, my phone kept ringing, with calls from the previous company reaching over 100 in just a few days. Even when I answered the phone thinking that I had completed the necessary documents for my resignation, I was simply told to come quickly because they would rehire me from above. We had had enough. Frustrated, Dina and I decided to go to the previous company and give them a piece of our minds. Upon seeing us, the managing director said,
"Ah, you finally came back. You should have returned obediently from the start."
We hadn't returned to the company. We were there to confront him. I said with a smile, "You should have no problems if Frances is handling the accounting, right? I taught her everything. If she can't do it, that's on her. You, as both a parent and a boss, are failing if you haven't even noticed her poor behavior." The managing director's face turned red with anger.
"How dare you! I even offered to rehire you."
I calmly responded, "That's precisely why we don't want to be rehired. In fact, we were considering quitting anyway." He looked utterly shocked.
"What?"
I went on. "Has Frances started acting like a responsible adult yet? While I don't deny nepotism, at least have her work properly. The way she talks, the attitude when she listens, everything about her is unprofessional. Shouldn't you, as her parent, be the one to address these issues? And you fire us just because we pointed that out? It doesn't make sense." To be honest, I couldn't care less about being fired. It was clear things would go south if Frances was the only one left in accounting. The managing director glared at me. Plus, firing Dina, who's a stellar salesperson, shows you really don't know what you're doing. No wonder you're losing clients. How many have you lost in the last month? I say with a grin, and the managing director's face turns beet red. I came here today to talk about our wrongful termination. We need you to provide the necessary documents. Also, I wanted to see firsthand how much trouble you're in without us. Dina chimes in after me. "I've already consulted a lawyer about the wrongful termination. We're willing to consider a settlement if it spares us all the hassle. What will it be?" The managing director bursts out.
"What wrongful termination?"
"I was fired on the spot for bringing up issues with an employee's behavior. This is clearly wrongful termination," I say assertively, locking eyes with the visibly pale president. President, this is your company, isn't it? Your relationship with the managing director has nothing to do with us. Getting more than 100 phone calls is crazy, don't you think? You fire us, and now you want us back because you're in a jam? Who do you think would even listen to that? The president only manages to look paler, unable to say a word. Mr. President, you've done accounting work before, right? I trust you'll handle the rest. Dina and I decide there's no point in further discussion and turn to leave. We'll leave the rest to our lawyer. With that, we leave the company. After some time, we received a request for a settlement through a lawyer, and we agreed. We were recognized as victims of wrongful termination, and we got our unpaid wages, severance pay, and a settlement amount higher than the market rate. We were pleased. It felt like we had finally had our revenge on the company. Both Dina and I would sometimes get urgent calls from clients while we were out, as we had given them our personal numbers. After we abruptly left, some even called to check up on us. I told them the situation and that we had been wrongfully terminated. Word spread quickly in our tight-knit industry. Most of Dina's clients left once she quit, probably cutting the company's business in half. According to a former colleague, staff kept leaving the company. They were getting complaints from clients, and the president and managing director were overwhelmed trying to keep things running. Frances couldn't manage, so the wife of the former accounting president had to step in. She's a very stern person, and Frances was having a hard time, crying every day. 6 months later, the company apparently went bankrupt. It might be a good thing they lasted half a year. One day I saw someone who looked like the managing director at a supermarket near the station. I couldn't help but stare. There he was, dressed in the supermarket's uniform, getting yelled at by a young man who seemed to be the store manager. Looks like he's working part-time at the supermarket because he couldn't find another job. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony of the once haughty managing director getting scolded by someone younger. Our eyes met from a distance, and I gave him a nod, which he, of course, ignored. But I frequent that supermarket, so every time I go, I look for the managing director, who's usually getting yelled at for something. I thought he was competent, but later learned from Dina that he just took credit for his subordinate's work. By the way, when I told Dina about the supermarket, she started going there out of curiosity and became a regular customer. In a way, the managing director is contributing to the supermarket's revenue, so maybe he's competent after all. But he's always getting yelled at. Dina and I continue to work happily at Scott's company. Scott even said he's relieved because our work has increased the company's sales. We're both looking forward to Scott treating us to dinner for our upcoming birthdays.
My name is Kelly, and I am 62 years old. I live alone in an apartment in Irvine. My mother divorced shortly after I was born, so I grew up in a single-mother family. Fortunately, after the divorce, my father provided me with adequate support and cared for me until I entered college. Following that, I joined a reasonably well-known company, and we had an arranged marriage thanks to an introduction from my boss. My son was born soon after, and we were enjoying our days together. But my husband died suddenly because of illness shortly after my son began working. My son's name is Mike. He was an honest child who cared for me as a child, but his personality began to change when he entered college. His selfishness worsened after my husband died, and he would say things like, "I'm on my own now, so leave me alone." I'd say he's become more dependable, but I'm wondering if it's because I'm getting older that I'm feeling a little lonely. My son is marrying the daughter of one of his client's presidents, whom he met through a business acquaintance. Her family seems to be a rich family, and they look down on my son, who comes from a single mother family, at first. But her father said, talking about family background nowadays is an anachronism. That is fine if you both agree. When I first visited her parents' home for the wedding ceremony, I was astounded by its size and magnificence. I then gave my son the house I was living in and moved into a new apartment that I purchased with my husband's inheritance. It is in Irvine, but I like the peace and quiet of the suburbs. My son's wife had the temperament of a wealthy daughter from an old rich family. She seemed to look down on me, a divorced woman living in a small Irvine apartment. She seemed to think I was a poor person on a pension.
I don't mean to be rude to you, but may I ask you a question?
Yes, what is it?
I'm afraid you have financial problems.
Thank you for your concern, but I've been able to make a decent living.
My family is well known, and my father is the president of a well-known furniture manufacturer. He's the CEO. Do you get what I'm saying?
She boasted about her family as if it was normal to do so.
So, do you believe you'll be able to obtain financial assistance?
What do you mean?
Let me tell you frankly, I don't want our money going toward your living expenses.
She believes I am a poor woman who will be a burden on her family. Oh, I never thought about it.
Perhaps not now, but you will, won't you?
I was wondering what kind of education she got. Oh, well, thank you very much for your generosity, but you don't have to worry about that.
Keep that in mind.
She then walked away from me. Her reaction was unusual, and I could tell how bad her personality is. Then, sometime later, my son and his wife visited me. I made a lot of homemade dishes to keep them entertained since my son returned after a while. My mother was from the Anaheim region, so I made light flavored dishes. I made a vegetable stew and boiled some fish. She is from the Palm Springs region, so she thought they were too bland and didn't taste good.
It's a pretty bad dish. Is there more meat or something?
I'm sorry. I grew up near the sea, so I know how to cook fish but not meat.
You had a very poor diet, didn't you?
She said, dismissing my modesty. But I wasn't impoverished. I barely got back at her. I'm not sure how you define poor, but we weren't poor. My son, who was standing nearby, unusually took my side. But it looks poor because there are only vegetables and fish. This vegetable soup was made from instant tofu and dried seaweed. Her arrogance was unending. I don't make ready-made meals. I make it by myself. I was so enraged that I retorted angrily. But, Mom, her family's meat dishes are excellent. Palm Springs has many brands of elite beef, and I'm now a big fan of it. I didn't understand what my son was thinking. He reversed his earlier opinion and followed up with his own wife. Her family, by the way, is living in a well-known area in Palm Springs for its elite beef. Please cut the elite local beef. It's easy to cut with chopsticks and melts in your mouth. I apologize. You usually eat the best one. It's quite expensive, so it's not for you. She giggled as she put her hand over her mouth. I couldn't help but laugh at her. One day, when I had almost forgotten about such things, I was invited to Anna's parents' home. Because it was the end of summer and there were few tourists, I was asked if I wanted to come. It was my son's idea this time. I accepted the invitation because I had no plans and had not had the opportunity to visit Palm Springs. Despite the fact that it was an invitation, I brought some sweets from a long-established Irvine shop as a gift. Don't worry about it. I get tired of eating so much. But since I'm here, I'll receive it. Anna's sarcasm irritated me, but this is my in-laws' home. Except for me, everyone was an enemy. My in-laws' house was as beautiful as ever. They had renovated the garden and created a pond in which the carp swam gracefully. The carp cost approximately $10 million. They're few in number, but I chose quality over quantity. I counseled them. His wife looked overjoyed. I was reminded of how much she shows off things. My son and his wife invited me to a luxury hot spring hotel nearby. I enjoyed their magnificent hot spring facilities, as well as the pride and joy of fine Kobe beef. I think I would have enjoyed it even more if there were none of her usual sarcastic comments. Then there was the time when we went to my in-laws' house to say thank you and goodbye, and we were all drinking tea together. Thank you very much for your assistance this time. I was able to enjoy hot spring and delicious food because of you. My thank you speech changed into a terrible situation. There's no need to thank me for that. His wife seemed to be preparing for a battle. My son has been blessed with a wonderful family, and as his mother, I am grateful. Thank you very much. I said something that I had no intention of saying. My main concern is for you. I was concerned when I saw your house. Do you live with your pension? That should be enough for a normal life. But won't it eventually run out and force you to come to my parents' house for assistance? I'd appreciate it if you could refrain. I have never considered it. No, it could happen anytime soon, could it? So I'd better get it figured out while I still could. She got in the main talk. Can you sort this out? What do you mean? I'm not even a monster. I invited you here to have one last good time with your son. Did you like it? Yes, it was enjoyable. That makes me happy. So I'm going to cut off a relationship with you once and for all. What? What do you mean? We would be greatly inconvenienced if you became a beggar, so we would prefer that you became a stranger. Beggar? Stranger? I repeated her words because I didn't understand what she meant. That's why I'm asking you to abandon us now. Do you get what I'm saying? I was enraged by her condescending attitude, but I managed to keep it under control. I realized what you meant. If you wish that, I will do so. She was relieved by my understanding response. Don't worry, I've already prepared the bus fare for your return trip. Bye then. She continued sarcastically until the end. Anyway, I just want to thank you for what you did this time. Thank you a lot. I returned to Irvine after leaving those dismissive words. I was furious at what my son and his wife had done to me, but I didn't take any action. Then, in an attempt to de-stress, I traveled to Beverly Hills, a city I adore. I've stopped sending money to my son for good since then. I had been giving him some of the dividends from my father's stock as pocket money, but I had no choice but to stop when he told me he was going to distance himself from me. My son begged me to keep giving him money, but I refused, saying that I would no longer support him because we broke off our relationship. Apparently, he doesn't inform his wife that I have sent him money. Anna was holding his wallet, and apparently, he was spending money from me on anime merchandise. When they got married, Anna threw all of his prized possessions away, and then he gradually began collecting them again. Then, I heard that Anna's father had passed out. Fortunately, he survived, but due to his stroke, he was unable to continue his work. And my son and his wife have assumed the roles of family governor and president. My daughter-in-law's family is quite wealthy, but the company's management was aggressive and unpopular. Since my son and his wife took over the company's management has been plagued. Clients were dissatisfied with the way the company has been run and have stopped doing business with them. I would normally have gone to see him because he was my daughter-in-law's father, but because I had been cut off from them, I did not. Anna has a similar personality to her father, so she will probably most likely conduct herself in the same way. However, she does not appear to have much business acumen in my opinion. I was concerned about her future because she is selfish and looks down on others. The company's sales have fallen as expected, and the new business she started has failed to materialize, leaving them with nothing but more debt. sales of high-end furniture, the company's mainstay, remained slow, and it was clear that the company as a whole would lose money in the future. I was concerned, but I decided to wait and see what happened. The company then conducted a major reorganization in which the entire board of directors was replaced. My son, who became the new president, called for the main business to be downsized and new divisions to be established. I'm not sure about the specifics, but it seems that the decision was made by Anna, who is the company's largest shareholder. My son is a representative director, but he seems to have gone unnoticed. It was definitely her way of doing things. However, this was a big failure. Sales in the main business operations plummeted, and the new division performed far below expectations. The stock price dropped significantly as the company's performance deteriorated, and the company's survival became doubtful as more and more employees who had given up on the company began to resign. I had been watching the stock price, but it kept falling. Dividends were no longer paid, and the quarterly reports and stock firms' general comments were depressing. The company may be delisted soon. If the stock is delisted, it will be impossible to buy and sell shares on the market, and raising funds would be extremely difficult. Banks are unlikely to extend loans, so the only option is for them to liquidate their holdings. Her parents own a number of local forests and other properties, but they are not expected to be worth much because they are in a rural area. Still, at the end of the day, they had no choice but to sell them. I can't be bothered because I'm cut off from them. I carried on with my life in the same as before. My son and his wife then contacted me several times for some reason, but I ignored them because I didn't need them. Then there was the time I was on my annual sightseeing tour of Beverly Hills, admiring the autumn leaves. The mushrooms this year were smaller, possibly due to the weather, but the flavor was richer and the taste was excellent. It soothed my heart when combined with the colorful scenery of the autumn leaves outside. While I was enjoying Beverly Hills' autumn scenery and food, I received a call from one of the staff members. "There's a visitor here to see you." Huh? I don't have an appointment, and only a few people know I'm in Beverly Hills. What is the visitor's name? Yes, Smith. Her name is Anna Smith. Smith? I paused for a moment, but it hit me right away. I know her, but we're taking a break from each other for some reason. Please ask her to leave. Yes. She is very eager to see you. She even got down on her knees. How should I deal with this? Well, there's nothing I can do. Send her to the guest room, please. I'll return once I've finished getting ready. I returned to my room and changed into something more appropriate. It's been a long time. I understand your family, and I have been cutting off our relationship. What made you come here? I had no idea you came this far. I greeted her calmly. It's been a long time. Thank you so much for forgiving me for all the disrespect I've shown you in the past. What is this? I'm not forgiving you. I only came to see you on a whim. Misunderstandings would make you difficult to think. No. My words were too strong. I apologize. Her face is flushed from the nervousness and my cold attitude. I've heard that you own this mansion. Can you tell me how you got this? She should have heard something about my true identity somewhere. It was clear to me that she had come to me because she was desperate for money. That's none of your business, I said as I smiled and dismissed her. This is my father's villa. It was given to me by my father, I said after a brief pause. I made the decision to speak clearly. Oh, who is your father? John Scott. He's deceased, but don't you know him? What? Oh, the previous president of Scott Trading. Does that mean you're the former president's daughter? This new revelation has made her shocked. Let me explain this in detail. I am his daughter of his ex-wife, and I use my mother's surname. My half-brother is the current president of the company. My mother has already died, and I have been taking distance myself from the Scott family. Because my personality is not suited to business, I delegated company management to my younger brother. I wanted to live quietly for the rest of my life, so I received a portion of the company's shares as an advancement from my father and got this house. I see. She seemed she understood. Let me tell you about my current financial situation. As an inexperienced stockbroker, I do not buy or sell stocks, but I do receive dividends twice a year. Dividends are paid to me twice a year, which covers my expenses. To begin with, I don't want to live a fancy life. This house is managed by my brother. He has a maid stationed in the house, so I can use her at any time. She was almost speechless. Why are you here, by the way? I just wanted to double check that I'm properly abandoned, am I right? Yes. As you are aware, our family business is struggling, and I was hoping you would be willing to assist us. She begged desperately. What's the point of this? I asked with my plain expression. When my father became ill, my husband took over as president, but he was inexperienced. As a relative, I thought it would be better if I took charge, so I assisted him in various ways. Do you mean that my son was merely an ornament for you to wield real power? That's exactly what I'm saying. At this point, she must have concluded that her bizarre evasions were futile. Her explanation was accurate, though. What happened next? The product mix change that I had initiated had failed, and we were saddled with massive losses and debt, and I did everything I could to help. So you're saying you've turned to me? That's correct. I let out a sigh. Do you want me to assist you with that? Yes. I'd be delighted to assist. Do you remember what you told me? You will isolate me from your family because I'm a nuisance to you if I beg. What exactly are you saying and doing now that you said it would be a bother if I begged? Oh, it's for money. That is known as begging in this world. You are correct. Right? I told her with a smile. I will decline. I don't want you to dismiss me. You've treated me so poorly, and now you want me to assist you. I apologize. I'm sorry, but I need... She bends her knees and rubs her chin against the floor. I didn't pay attention to her and said, I am not a person who is capable of giving alms to a beggar. Please leave. Please. The bank will no longer lend to me, and I have nowhere to rely. She kept getting down on her knees, and she didn't care that the hem of her dress was a mess. Please leave. I sincerely wish you the best. The visitor is leaving. Send her to the entrance. And for the last time, sprinkle some salt on them, I told her and my maid. The 4 maids dragged her out of the room, standing her up and holding her from both sides as she remained on her knees and refused to move. I went back to my room, returned my gaze to the blazing autumn leaves, and softly murmured, I just want to live in peace. Later, I knew that her company had gone bankrupt. She gave up her land and house to settle down, and with the little money she had left, she rented a small, rented house. And they spent days working part-time. I'm still living in an apartment in Irvine. When my son married and moved out, he bought a cat for me because he knew I'd be lonely. He is Dime, a Maine Coon. He is a long-haired cat, so he is difficult to care for, but he enjoys being brushed and is always quiet. Seeing his comfortable face makes me happy as well. I'd like to go to Beverly Hills. Why don't we go in the winter like we always go in the fall? It's too hot for you in the summer. He began biting my hand sweetly while I was petting him. Hey! He licks the spot on my hand, where he bit me as if he apologized. You're so cute. Time had already won my heart. Then I returned to Beverly Hills. Outside, it was snowing. Dime is in my arms, staring out the window with me. You were only the size of my palm when you first arrived at my house, but you've grown so much. I thought he was quiet, but Dime fallen asleep before I noticed. It's true what they say about a sleeping child growing up. But if you grow any larger, I won't be able to hold you. I looked out once more, brushing the tip of Dime's nose as he slept. It had been a quiet, snowy night. I was nodding off as well. I was wondering if there would be a lovely snowy landscape tomorrow morning. I went to bed thinking about this. Dime is also sleeping next to me. As I closed my eyes, I told myself that I was going to have a good dream. I closed my eyes and thought.
If anything happens to Mia, we're getting a divorce. While shopping with the family, our daughter Mia suddenly goes missing. In a panic, I search everywhere. Ethan, clearly annoyed, yells at me. He gives up the search and goes off to eat. At the mall's information desk, they inform me that a child matching Mia's description was seen being forcibly put into a car by a young woman in the parking lot. What should I do now? A store employee kindly suggests contacting the police. Just then, Ethan returns and after hearing the situation, urgently says, "Don't you dare call the cops." What unfolds next is unexpected and horrifying truth, plunging Ethan into a living hell. My name is Allison. I live with my 4-year-old daughter, Mia, and my husband, Ethan. I hustle every day as a homemaker, doing everything for Ethan and Mia. After graduating college, I married Ethan and became a homemaker at his insistence. Despite this, Ethan looks down on me for never having worked as a working adult. If you divorce me, Allison, you're done for. You have no work experience. Ethan points this out every time we fight. You're just a parasite. I've been called that too. When we first got married, I used to stand up for myself, but Ethan's constant belittling has worn down my confidence. I find myself unable to argue back anymore, merely living according to Ethan's wishes. Unhappy with the situation, I once suggested to Ethan that I could get a part-time job now that Mia has started preschool. If you take a part-time job, you'll neglect the household chores. Plus, you've never worked a day in your life, Allison. But I thought I could contribute to our finances even just a bit. Cut the crap! You, Allison, with no skills, working? Impossible. Bring it up again and we're getting a divorce. Ethan ripped up the resume I had started writing. Why can't things be better? The thought of a divorce crossed my mind, but with no work experience, there's no guarantee I'd get custody of Mia if we separated. So I gave up on getting a part-time job and found myself back under Ethan's thumb. Around that time, Ethan started coming home late and seemed preoccupied with sending messages, acting a bit off. Moreover, when I went to wash Ethan's dress shirts, I noticed the scent of women's perfume on them. Could he be cheating? Suspicion growing, I couldn't resist peeking at his phone while he was in the shower. But the phone was locked, and I was struggling to unlock it. What are you doing? A terrifying voice came from behind me. Turning around, I saw Ethan, freshly out of the bath, glaring at me and snatching the phone out of my hands. Well, I saw messages coming in and I got curious. Enough with the excuses. Do you think I'm cheating? No, it's not like that. I wouldn't do something like that. We have our lovely Mia. Think about it again and we're getting a divorce. With that, Ethan retreated to his room, leaving me pondering. I haven't even mentioned cheating, but his defensive reaction told me all I needed to know. However, the thought of being separated from Mia if we divorced stopped me from pushing any further. The next day, Ethan oddly began to bring home flowers and our favorite cream puffs. as if trying to get back in my good graces. And perhaps to continue winning me over, he suggested we go to the new shopping mall that had recently opened nearby. We're both free this weekend. Let's go out, all three of us. Yay, shopping with Mom and Dad! Mia was jumping with joy. I was happy too, finally having a family outing. So, on our next day off, we drove to the new shopping mall in the neighborhood. However, the newly opened stores were extremely crowded. After some time walking around the mall, we all felt drained by the crowds. I'm tired. I'll take a break here with Mia. Ethan quickly sat down at a rest spot in the mall. I gave Mia some soft-serve ice cream and decided to use that time to go grocery shopping at the supermarket next door. After 30 minutes later, when I returned to the rest spot, Ethan was lounging on a sofa absorbed in a game on his mobile phone. However, when I looked around, Mia was nowhere near Ethan. Where's Mia? She was just playing near the table a minute ago. Maybe she's in the restroom? I checked the restroom for Mia, but she wasn't there. I even searched through the nearby toy stores and arcade from corner to corner, but she was nowhere to be found. Starting to panic, I yelled, Mia, where are you? With the crowd, I couldn't spot her. Hey, Mia's missing! Help me find her! Reluctantly, Ethan, who had been engrossed in his mobile game, started searching with me. I could sense his annoyance at being interrupted. After searching for about 10 minutes, Ethan suddenly grabbed my collar. It's your fault for leaving Mia alone while shopping, isn't it? You said you were watching her! Who cares? If anything happens to Mia, we're getting a divorce. What? His sudden words caught me off guard. When that happens, I'm taking custody of Mia. You can work your tail off for child support. Now is not the time to be saying that. If you don't like it, search by yourself. Ethan let go of my collar abruptly and stormed off to the food court, saying he was going to eat. Don't you care about Mia at all? Though I wanted to call him back, fearing his anger, I let him go. Unable to find Mia, I went to the mall's service counter for help. She's a 4-year-old girl wearing a red floral dress and white shoes. Unfortunately, no reports of a missing child had been made. Hearing this, I collapsed into a chair. Where could Mia be? Was she kidnapped? Is she crying somewhere right now because I'm not there? The concerned staff called around to different stores for me. Just when I was praying for any information, a security guard said he saw a girl in similar clothing being forcibly put into a car by a young woman. When he had questioned her, she had yelled, She's my daughter, just being stubborn. I'm in a hurry, so don't bother me. She seemed quite flustered, starting the car quickly and drove off. The more I heard, the more it seemed likely that the woman had taken Mia. Mia, please be safe. Feeling guilty for leaving Mia behind while shopping, my emotions weigh heavily on me. A store staff member reassures me, Don't worry, Mia is probably fine. Let's call the police for now. You're right. I need to call the police. Telling myself that this is no time for tears, I take out my mobile phone to call the police. Just then, I receive a call from Ethan, who seems to have just finished his lunch alone. Hey, where are you? Did you find Mia? The thing is, it looks like Mia was taken away in a car by a young woman. What? What are you talking about? I quickly tell Ethan to come to the customer service counter, and he rushes over. Ethan seems hesitant when the security guard briefs him on the situation and suggests that we should report it to the police. Then, Ethan starts asking the security guard detailed questions about the appearance of the woman who took Mia, and the color and the type of car. I might know who she is. I'm going to call her, so please don't go to the police yet. Know who? What do you mean? Just stay here and wait, Allison. Leaving me with questions, Ethan goes away to make a phone call. A few minutes later, he returns with a worried look on his face. Allison, go home first. I'll pick up Mia, and remember, do not report this to the police. Without explaining further, Ethan leaves in his car, so I have no choice but to take the train back home alone. Please come back safely. With no updates and time passing by, I am filled with unease. Should I really not contact the police? Then, almost 2 hours later, Ethan returns home, carrying a sleeping Mia. Mia! You're safe! Overwhelmed with joy, I run to Mia and hug her tightly. I take a peacefully sleeping Mia to her bedroom. I check her thoroughly to make sure she's not hurt, and thankfully find no injuries. I'm so relieved. Finally feeling a sense of relief that Mia is back, I ask, So, the person who took Mia, Was she someone you know? Yeah, it was just a mix-up with someone from work. Mia's fine. Let's leave it at that. What do you mean, a mix-up? Explain properly. She mistook Mia for a lost child. I don't want to make it an issue at work, okay? If you do anything weird, we're getting a divorce. Ethan forcefully ends the conversation and retreats to his room. I don't know how you could make such ridiculous excuses. By now, I had nothing but distrust for Ethan. But what's the point in asking him any further? He won't tell me anything. Soon after, Mia woke up. I hugged Mia so tightly it might have hurt, and when I welcomed her home, she grinned with a ticklish smile. At first, I didn't like getting in the car with a strange lady, but she told me she was Daddy's friend, so I wasn't scared. Mia reassured me with a smile. Daddy's friend? Yep, they're super close. Could there be something more between Ethan and this woman? I decided to take a leap and hired a private investigator to look into Ethan. Luckily, Mia seemed fine both physically and emotionally, which was a huge relief. So life went on as usual. A week later, I received a report from the investigator. Just as I suspected, Ethan was cheating. So, it's really like that, huh? Is this the same woman who took Mia? I showed the security guard at the mall a photo of the woman Ethan was seeing. It matched the woman who took Mia. When I think about it, Ethan didn't notice Mia was missing because he was gaming and then insulted me while I was searching for her. He never apologized. And the worst part? Ethan acted like he was a victim too, but all this happened because he cheated. All the anger I had for Ethan burst out. I can't leave Mia around such a father. I decided on divorce. But if it comes to divorce, I, a homemaker with no working experience, would likely lose custody of Mia. So, first things first, I started job hunting. It was tough learning how to write a resume and practicing for interviews, but I studied late into the night for Mia and finally got a job offer. Then I started working secretly from Ethan, found a divorce lawyer, and looked for an apartment I could afford. Finally, when all was ready, I went to file a police report. The day after I filed the report, Ethan came home early from work. Maybe his affair partner tipped him off. Why did you file a police report? That's a misunderstanding. Go withdraw it now. No way. What? So you're doing this because you want to get divorced? Up until now, Ethan must have thought I'd always do what he said, just because I didn't oppose him when he mentioned divorce. You know, you'd be screwed financially if we split, right? I looked at Ethan, who was brimming with confidence, and emotionlessly handed him the divorce papers. What? You do realize you won't be able to maintain this lifestyle if we divorce, don't you? You're just a homemaker. But I'm not just a homemaker anymore. I have a job and I'm earning my own money. I can live without you, Ethan. What? When did you start working? That's why I can divorce you without any issues, especially after you cheated on me with the woman who kidnapped Mia. I've told you I didn't cheat. Just as I expected, Ethan denied the cheating. So I spread out photos of him and his mistress entering a hotel. Ethan's face tightened instantly. Still want to say you didn't cheat? I'm sorry. After Mia was born, you never had time for me. I felt lonely. The first time he's ever apologized, and it was still an excuse. Ethan was running out of ways to defend himself. Look, the woman who kidnapped Mia is not my mistress. Trust me. Mia and the mall security both recognized her as your mistress. It just looks like her. She's actually a colleague. Don't let this get out, okay? Please retract the police report. Ethan was desperately trying to protect his mistress from punishment. What was he thinking? Security footage caught her license plate. It matches with your mistress's. Still think it's not her? Ethan had nothing more to say. Apparently, he'd promised his mistress to get the police report retracted. He was visibly sweating when he realized I was not going to comply this time. I don't need you, Ethan, who tries to protect someone who put Mia in danger. From now on, we'll talk through lawyers. Leaving Ethan behind, I picked up the sleeping Mia and headed to my parents' house. After that, Ethan's affair partner got arrested for kidnapping Mia. Turns out, when she expressed her sincere desire to marry Ethan, he told her, "I can't marry you. Mia is important to me." Believing that getting Mia out of the picture would clear the path for marriage, she took her to a remote mountain, planning to abandon her there. When Ethan heard the description of the woman from the security guard, he realized it was his affair partner. He tricked her with a fake marriage proposal to get Mia back. Moreover, she had been bragging to her coworkers that she was set to marry Ethan, believing his words. In the end, her arrest led to everyone at work finding out about her affair and kidnapping. She was fired. As for Ethan, he resisted divorce until the end. However, thanks to the parents-in-law who felt sorry for Mia, convincing me to give up on Ethan, I secured a lump sum payment for child support and divorce settlement. Ethan wasn't put behind bars like his affair partner, but he was also fired because of the rumors she spread. And yet, I still get messages from Ethan demanding that we get back together. Always talking about how he's struggling, but never a word about me or Mia. I've decided to cut ties with the despicable Ethan once and for all. I've gone through a lawyer and even changed my mobile phone. Now, Mia and I are living together in an apartment near my parents' house. With the help of my dad and mom, I juggle work, household chores, and parenting, and I'm busier than ever. I've gained self-confidence and I'm living fuller, happier days than I did while married.
My name is Kate. My husband's name is Mike. In our second year of marriage, we were blessed with children, and our twin babies were born in the spring. Our daughters' names are Sally and Mary. Now they're already a year and a half old. When I found out I was pregnant with twins, I was very surprised, but more than that, I was happy and looking forward to having 2 beautiful children. However, raising twins was more difficult than I had imagined. I hardly slept at night, and I was overwhelmed with the responsibilities of caring for 2 small children during the day. I had no support locally, so I did my best, but was perpetually exhausted. Mike was a kind, considerate guy when we were dating. However, as soon as we got married, his attitude changed as if he had transformed. You don't feed a fish you've already caught. That saying perfectly described him. After getting married, I quit my job, and as a full-time housewife, I lived trying not to upset Mike. I prepared meals with perfect timing so they would be ready as soon as Mike came home, and I prepared towels and clothes for his bath. I always did my best to be a good wife. However, after the children were born, I was a mother, and my focus on being a good wife became a lower priority. I believed that he would change when the children were born, but as it turns out, people don't change so easily. Mike's attitude not only didn't change, it got worse. "Hey, where's my dinner? I told you when I'd be home so you could have it ready by the time I got here." "I'm sorry, Sally and Mary were crying. I'll heat it up and it will be ready soon." He let out an exasperated sigh. I pretended not to hear it and heated up the dinner. From their playpen, the babies started wailing again. It's interesting with twins. When one starts crying, the other one starts crying too. The children's cries echoed throughout the house. Mike sat on the sofa, unmoved, with his newly opened beer in one hand and his cell phone in the other. From the kitchen, I made a shh noise to soothe the babies and went back and forth between the stove and setting the table. As soon as I set dinner on the table, Mike stood up. "You know what? This is taking forever. I'm just going to shower." "Dinner's ready. I just set it on the table." "I don't care. It's too late. I've had a long day and I need a shower, so I'll eat after that." And with that, the hot dinner was left untouched, and he was gone upstairs. This was an everyday occurrence. Suppressing my irritation with Mike's selfishness, I began to feed Sally and Mary their bottles and get them ready for bed. Putting the 2 of them to sleep was always quite a struggle. When I finally got them to sleep and returned to the living room, Mike was lying on the sofa, freshly showered. Okay, I'm definitely hungry now. When's dinner going to be ready? You haven't eaten yet? You should have just heated it up and eaten it. Oh, so I'm supposed to work all day, then come home and do housework too? It's just reheating it in the microwave. If I complained like you do at my job, I'd be fired. Fearing that saying anything more would further upset him, I reluctantly heated up the dinner and brought it to Mike. Microwaved fish? Ugh. I was in the mood for meat. This sucks. Maybe I'll just eat cup ramen instead. I went through a lot of trouble to prepare that. Fine, because I love you and you worked so hard. Today seemed better because he actually ate what I prepared. There are days when he complains and doesn't eat the dinner I make. While Mike eats, I clean up the dishes and do the laundry. I lament the fact that I've had no time for myself. I thought that spending time with my adorable children was a happy thing, but due to Mike's lack of equal partnership, the child care and domestic tasks were draining me of both my mental and physical health. As the children began to walk, the cuteness was undeniable, but so was the difficulty. Being twins, they would go in different directions. Shopping also required me to go alone with both of them, so I spent most of my days desperately chasing after them. Every day I began to feel more depressed and isolated, and I wished I had a safe space to share my struggles and receive some support. My husband left for work before 6 a.m. and returned home most days on the last train. Even if he came home early, the babies were still always my responsibility. And if there were days that he did come home early, it was even more work for me, because I felt like I had 3 children. Mike's days off were the worst. He would sleep until afternoon, play on his phone, and hardly engage with the children at all. Yet he would ask when lunch would be ready, or tell me to take the noisy children outside. We're going to the park now, Mike. Why don't you come with us? I'm just not good at the baby stuff. Plus, today is my day off. I need to rest or I'll be worthless on Monday morning. Since Mike didn't engage much with the girls, they weren't very attached to him anyway. On holidays and weekends, there are always many families at the park. I would often see families with fathers who were not only taking responsibility for the child care, but would play with their children and seemed to be enjoying it. Every time I saw that, I felt empty inside. It was as if our girls were fatherless and I were a single mother. Finally, I decided something had to change. I would leave. However, before leaving, there was something I had to do. Although Mike had said he would be home late, he unexpectedly came back a little before the children's bedtime. Where's dinner? You said you'd be home late, so I didn't make anything. I just fed the girls. On nights when he comes home on the last train, he usually eats dinner out, so I didn't prepare anything for him that day either. Ugh, you're as useless as ever. If you knew you were coming home, you could have communicated with me. I got done earlier than I expected. I would think you'd have a plan to prepare for situations like this. What happened to this house? It looks like a bomb went off. I typically clean up the house before Mike gets home to avoid being complained at. But today, he came back unexpectedly, and the room was not tidied up. And Mike seemed extremely annoyed with the messy room. I was planning to do it after Sally and Mary went to sleep. The reason you stay home is to do the housework and take care of the kids. This is your job, and I can't relax in such a messy room. Right. Taking care of the kids in itself is a full-time job, not to mention the housework. And even if I clean up the toys, they'll just get scattered again, so I always clean up after the kids are in bed. Ugh, enough arguing. I'm starving. Well, like I said, I didn't make anything. Can't you make something simple quickly? There's a microwavable beef bowl. I had beef bowl last night, so no. Then all we have is instant ramen, so you can have that or go out and get something. After heaving a long, drawn-out sigh, Mike exploded. You're a stay-at-home mom, yet you can't cook or do housework. Are you incompetent? I am nothing of the sort. What's the definition of someone who is left to do all the work themselves? Certainly not incompetent. You act as if I'm idling away my time. Is that what you really think? If I'd known our relationship would be so lopsided, I wouldn't have married you. I feel deceived. I could say the same about you. I wasn't shocked. On the inside, I almost laughed. I'd been waiting for the day when he would say something to push me over the edge. I felt like suddenly I was given permission to take action. And the next day, after Mike left for work, I took Sally and Mary, grabbed our luggage, and left the house. For weeks I had already slowly started packing all of our necessities without Mike noticing. We would never return to this house. I wasn't sad. I felt free and motivated to start a new life. I left the divorce papers on his desk and we left the house. We went to my parents, who knew about my marriage and were ready to support me and the girls when I was ready. Today was that day. My parents, who lived about 2 hours away by bullet train, were overjoyed to see their grandchildren after a long time and warmly welcomed us. Once Sally and Mary were playing with my parents, I finally carried out my plan. Night came, and it was time for Mike to return home. My cell phone rang. The caller, of course, was Mike. I ignored the call. My phone continued ringing non-stop until midnight. After ignoring him for several days, Mike came to my parents' house on his day off. "Is Kate here?" "Why?" "She left the house without saying anything the other day. She won't answer my calls. This is the only place she could be." "Yes, Mike, she and the girls are here," my mother answered. "Let me in. I need to see them." "I'm sorry I won't let you in, but Kate did leave a message for you." "What is it?" "You need to sign the papers and submit them by mail. Don't come back here." "I don't want a divorce." "Well, what happened in the first place?" My mother pretended not to know and asked Mike to share his version of the story. Then Mike said something unbelievable. "I think she just had a bit of postpartum depression. I intended to support her as much as possible to reduce her burden, but maybe she got too tired." "Is that so?" "I've been busy with work and had a few late nights at the office, so it could be that I was a little distracted. If she had communicated to me how she was feeling, I could have done more." "So you would have supported her if you knew?" "Of course. I can't thank Kate enough for working hard every day, even though taking care of the children for a short time is difficult." Then what's this video about?" My mother pulled out her phone. The color drained from Mike's face. "Why do you have this video?" "I got it from Kate. This is your voice, right? You seem to think here that she was incompetent, which is quite different from depressed or overworked." "I was just joking when I said that to her." "That's interesting, since it's not just this one. Kate showed me many other videos with your abusive language. Do you plan to pass them all off as jokes?" Since the day I decided to divorce Mike, I had set my phone up in the living room to record his nightly performances after he came home. If he ever saw my phone and asked, I told him I set it up to record the children playing. But in reality, those videos were his undoing. They contained all the abusive words he said to me. "Also, it seems Sally and Mary don't want to see you either." "I'm their father." "If they were given the choice, I'm not sure they would care." "That's not true." My mother called the girls to the door from the living room. Sally and Mary stopped running and stood still when they saw Mike's face. "Hi, girls. I've missed you. Come to Daddy." Hearing this, the twins returned to me in the other room and clung tightly to my legs. I couldn't tell if they were actually afraid of their father, or if they saw him more as a stranger, but I was certain that they didn't need him. I went to the entrance and approached Mike. "Listen, if this is just a ploy to get me to feel sorry about what I said, I'll apologize. Let's just go home." "That's no longer our home, and I won't come back. I won't return to a place that's not safe and supportive for me and the girls." "Come on. I'm tired from work every day, so it's only natural that I can't play with the kids or help you do everything." "Right. So if you find yourself too overworked to take responsibility for simple tasks such as cleaning up after yourself or feeding yourself, perhaps you should hire a housekeeper." "What are you trying to say?" "I'm saying that I signed up to be your wife and partner, not your housekeeper. Turns out you think you need me, but I clearly don't need you." And just now, seeing the twins' reaction, I realized that they don't need you either. "Please sign the papers and get this over with." "I'm warning you, you'll regret this. You'll have zero financial stability. I won't take you back." We were always very well off financially because of Mike's job at his big company. He probably got promoted because his arrogance was seen as confident. "Oh, don't worry about us. You should worry about yourself." "What do you mean?" "Shall I show you the video that's been going viral on social media recently?" I showed him the video my mother had shown Mike earlier. It was this video where Mike said terrible things to me while our children played in the background. Videos in which he called me a burden and incompetent were now publicly available on social media. What is this? Oh, just a little reality TV on social media that has gone viral. What do you mean by viral? It's not just my friends, but many people have shared it, and it's currently a hot topic on social media. Mike, you're famous now. Don't screw with me. What if my coworkers find out? Delete it, now. It's already out on the internet, so it's too late. There's no deleting it. You're really screwed up, do you know that? Says the guy who treated his wife like a live-in servant. Some mothers deal with this kind of hardship and only have one child. I had twins. Then when you came home from work at night, it was as if I had 3 children. You said you wanted to care for our children full-time. Correct. Our children. I did not want to be a maid or a single parent, even when you returned home from work at night. I didn't wait for Mike to reply. This was not the life I wanted. I didn't do anything wrong. The fact that you think that way is proof that there is no undoing this. Please sign the divorce papers and mail them to me. Mike seemed to have more to say, but I sent him away. A few days later, the divorce papers arrived. I immediately submitted them to the city office, and we got divorced. As for him, it became rumored in his company that he was the voice in the video, and his good public image took a significant hit. His sales performance, a job where image is crucial, began to decline rapidly. His close friends and coworkers were shocked and began to distance themselves, and with his sales performance no longer improving, Mike found it difficult to stay at the company and voluntarily resigned. Being a high earner had been his status, but now he was struggling as a newcomer at a new company, being pushed around like he once did to others. As for me, I went back to school. I studied design while staying at my parents' house and found a great job that offered me the flexibility to earn a great salary and take care of my daughters. We 3 now live in a quaint little apartment near my parents' house. I have my sweet girls. I have a renewed sense of self-esteem, and most of all, I have my dignity and assurance that I am living authentically to myself.
My name is Samantha. Just the other day, my boyfriend Michael proposed to me. Standing in front of a beautifully lit fountain, I was deeply moved when Michael got down on one knee and offered me an engagement ring.
Please, marry me. I promise to make you happy.
I tearfully accepted the ring and said yes to Michael, who assured me happiness. Indeed, Michael said,
I promise to make you happy.
But that's all words. A shocking event unfolded just a week before our wedding. Up until then, everything had been peaceful. Family meetings had gone smoothly. Both our parents got along well, which was a big relief for me. However, Amelia, Michael's sister-in-law, always greeted me with a tight smile. That had me concerned. Michael and I planned to get our marriage certificate issued after the wedding. We wanted to do it on our anniversary, but we were set to start living together a week before the wedding. My in-laws are farmers and own extensive land in the countryside. We were going to build our new home just a few minutes away from where my in-laws and brother and sister-in-law live on the property. Though I felt a bit guilty about having a new home built, my mother-in-law said kindly, "As long as you help with the farming, it's all good." I studied agriculture in college. I have always had an interest in farming and was looking forward to joining the family business. Even before we got married, I would frequently help out, and the in-laws always welcomed me. Initially, I was worried about starting our married life on the in-laws' property, but I felt that we could live harmoniously with them. But one day, while I was helping with the farming as usual, Amelia approached me discreetly and whispered, "Be careful of your father-in-law." Caught off guard, all I could say was, "Huh?" Amelia looked like she wanted to say more, but our conversation was cut short as my father-in-law called out to us from a distance, leaving me puzzled about why she said that. With just a week left until the wedding, everything was said and all that remained was to walk down the aisle. I packed my things and moved into our new home to start living with Michael. We rented a truck, loaded it with our belongings, and headed to our new place with my dad helping us move. I had come to help with the farming, but today was the first day we were going to our newly built home. Dad and I couldn't help but tilt our heads in confusion as we stood in front of it. It seemed like someone was already living in the home that was supposed to be for Michael and me. The door was unlocked, so we gently opened it to find shoes lined up in the entryway. Confused by the obvious signs that someone was living there, Dad and I decided to go greet my in-laws before starting the moving process. When we rang the doorbell, a troubled-looking Michael came out. We told him it looked like someone was living in our new home, to which Michael replied, something was definitely off. And as we puzzled over it, father-in-law appeared saying, sorry about that. Without prior notice, we have decided Michael and Samantha will live here. Could you move your stuff in? We moved David and Amelia to the new house. David and Amelia are my brother-in-law and sister-in-law. Suddenly I remembered what Amelia had warned me about, to watch out for father-in-law. I couldn't help but blurt out, "This is a problem." I was planning on starting our new life in that house. I wasn't informed that I would be living with father-in-law and mother-in-law. Why didn't Michael tell me? Seeing Michael hesitate only fueled my growing irritation. From his behavior, it was clear Michael knew we would be living together all along. Keeping that a secret until moving day was absolutely unacceptable. Father-in-law, seemingly displeased by my reaction, said, "If you're married, it shouldn't matter if you live together or apart." Although I had intended to help with the farm and didn't object to living on the same property as my in-laws, living together was another matter entirely. Living together or apart are completely different matters, I countered. Dad backed me up. "It feels like you're taking our daughter for granted by informing us after the fact on such an important matter. We would like a proper explanation." Confronted by Dad's firm stance, father-in-law reluctantly answered, "Well, you understand, don't you? It's better to have a young wife at home. Amelia has passed 30, entering middle age. Just having a young girl like Samantha around invigorates me. That's why we chose to live with Samantha and send the older wife to the new house." Dad and I were at a loss for words. Father-in-law's comments suggested he viewed his son's wife merely as a woman. The audacity of father-in-law, who talked as if he was saying something entirely reasonable, was frightening. "Michael, was it because I'm young that we're living in this house?" I looked to Michael for some relief, but he stayed silent. Whether he was uncomfortable or what, he bit his lip and didn't say a word. That's when Amelia showed up. "Samantha, hi there." Amelia, her face smudged with dirt as if she had been doing some farming, looked at me intently. "You might want to leave today. Living in a home where you're not welcome is just torturous." "What's your problem? You're just the wife, yet you talk back so sassily. You used to be so cute, but you have lost your charm lately." Father-in-law was furious at Amelia's words. Michael stood there silently observing the tension. Creeped out by the whole scene, I told Dad, "Let's go." Dad agreed to leave for the day. Michael and I decided to have a serious talk tomorrow. Back at my parents' home, I wept in my bed for a while. Why did this have to happen? I felt so devastated. I couldn't imagine being happy, marrying Michael who just followed his father's whims. While pondering what to say to Michael tomorrow, I received a phone call. I didn't recognize the number, but I decided to take the leap and answer. "It's Amelia." A familiar voice echoed. "Amelia, thank you for today. I'm sorry for calling you so suddenly. I found your number on Michael's phone without his permission, so please keep this call a secret from him." My body tensed up as I wondered what Amelia had to risk so much to tell me. Then Amelia started saying something shocking. "I have been wanting to tell you this but never got the chance. I apologize for it coming so last minute before your wedding. I highly discourage you from marrying Michael. The information Amelia shared was jarring. She said that she and her husband had been living with the in-laws, but were kicked out as soon as they learned I was moving in. According to father-in-law, it's because he wants to live with a younger woman. Father-in-law has a thing for younger women and he has cheated on mother-in-law, causing her emotional pain for years. Apparently, father-in-law has even intentionally walked into the changing room after Amelia took a bath saying, "Oops, my bad," with a lecherous grin. He had broken the lock himself and claimed it was an accident, but Amelia knew better. He had also rummaged through their bedroom under the pretense of cleaning and uncomfortably clung to Amelia while she cooked. Amelia was deeply in love with her husband David, and they have children, so she had been hesitant. But being kicked out this time solidified her decision to divorce. After hearing all this, there's no way I could proceed with the marriage. Amelia and I made a pact to take revenge on Michael, David, and father-in-law. I arrived at my in-laws the next day and was greeted by Amelia. We nodded at each other and entered the house where Michael, David, and my in-laws had gathered for a discussion. "Thank you all for coming," I started, locking eyes with Michael. "Let's call off the engagement." A stunned Michael listened as I continued. "You promised to make me happy, Michael. Yet you're fine with me living with this father-in-law? That's allowing me to suffer, right? I won't marry a man who's still controlled by his parents. You changed our housing plans without consulting me, so you are paying the cancellation fees for the wedding." "Huh?" Michael yelled in anger, but father-in-law was even more furious. "What do you mean by this father-in-law? What don't you like about me?" "Don't Michael and David know?" Both averted their eyes amidst the awkward silence. Amelia calmly recounted what father-in-law had done to her. Both Michael and David knew about father-in-law's invasive behavior, like spying on her in the changing room or rummaging through their bedroom. All this done without mother-in-law's knowledge. Mother-in-law's face gradually reddened as Amelia unveiled father-in-law's actions. Seeking support, father-in-law turned to his sons. "I didn't do any of that, right?" Cornered by mother-in-law, Michael and David looked down, essentially confirming it. "What the heck? You did that to your daughter-in-law? That's repulsive. Unbelievable." I didn't." "So the engagement is off. Clearly, you won't protect me. Seeing what Amelia has endured, living with father-in-law is unacceptable." While an infuriated mother-in-law lunged at father-in-law, I told Michael so. Michael stayed quiet, seemingly admitting the only option was to break off the engagement. Beside me, Amelia handed David pre-filled divorce papers. David, who had been pitying Michael and father-in-law until now, was shocked by the papers. Why all of a sudden?" He stammered. "You never stood up for me. If I kept thinking about what father-in-law might do to our daughter, I couldn't continue living with you. Please, let's get divorced," Amelia said. David stared at the divorce papers, his hands trembling. Large tears dropped from his eyes, but Amelia was unwavering. "I have extras if you make a mistake," she said, handing him a pen, which he took while still crying. Caught between his brother's tears and their parents' major blow-up, Michael must have been struggling too. "I really love Samantha. I knew Dad was a womanizer, but going against him wasn't an option, especially in this small town. I can't forgive you for making decisions behind my back, favoring your father over me. No matter what Michael says, I have made up my mind to break off the engagement. Our parents are furious at Michael, so there is no going back now." Michael seemed devastated. "Is that so?" He wiped away a tear from his eyes. Being in the same space with a sobbing brother and a feuding couple felt like hell on earth. After Amelia got David to draft the divorce papers, we headed to our new place. I looked after her daughter while Amelia packed up her stuff. She plans to file for divorce today and head back to her parents' home with her daughter. Thank you so much for helping me dodge a bullet with that family. No worries, I wish I had told you sooner. We both chose the wrong men. But let's make sure we're happy from here on out. Amelia, who always seems so cool, had a charming smile. After watching Amelia walk away, hand in hand, with her cheerful daughter, I returned to my family home. Later, I made sure Michael paid for the wedding cancellation fees. He seemed fully aware of his wrongdoings and paid without any resistance, which I appreciated. Michael's family lived in a rural area where gossip is the wife's main form of entertainment. Naturally, Michael's family became the target of good gossip. After all that fuss, even his mom ended up divorcing his dad. Their family became infamous as the household both sons' fiancés ran away from. Since I work in agriculture, I sometimes hear rumors about Michael's family. After his mom left, his dad drowned his sorrows in alcohol. The farm work, once shared between his parents, Michael, David, and Amelia, is now solely on Michael and David. They had to scale down their large farm because they couldn't manage it anymore. Though I was initially upset about breaking off the engagement with Michael, I have recovered now. I'm not interested in dating or marrying for a while, just focusing on work and my hobbies. Thinking back, I'm relieved I didn't become part of that family, and I'm forever grateful to Amelia.